Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I've been thinking a lot about how to describe the difference between left-wing politics and right-wing politics. I'm a big supporter of left-wing politics, but a lot of my friends and family kind of identify as somewhere in the middle or think of themselves as neither. And so I wanted to make this video as kind of a springboard for discussion to help me have conversations with my friends and family, and hopefully it's helpful to other people as well. I feel like the way I was taught the difference between left and right-wing politics wasn't really helpful. So I want to see if we can talk about it in a different way, and I want to go through some of the ways we commonly talk about it. So I think there are at least three big ways that people are introduced to this difference between left and right-wing politics. I remember back in high school, people used to talk about big government versus small government. Like the left wants big government solutions and the right wants to avoid government interference in our lives. Another way people introduce the difference is to say the left is all about collectivism, whereas the right is all about individualism, like individual responsibility, individual liberty. Those are the things they care about. And the third way I've often heard people talk about this is to say it's really a battle between equality versus liberty. The left is very concerned about equality, even if it might infringe on some people's liberties, and the right is very concerned about preserving liberty. I don't think that these three ways of talking about it are very good. I think they're kind of incorrect ways of looking at the difference. For one thing, none of these distinctions describes my values as someone who has left-wing views. Big government isn't one of my political values. In fact, there's lots of government institutions whose power, I think, should be reduced. And I think that that's a perfectly left-wing thing to say. Collectivism does describe my values, but I'm not against individualism. For example, I think we should collectively work together to ensure everybody has their basic needs met. When no one is worried about their basic needs, everyone can live fulfilling individual lives where they can pursue creative projects or start small businesses. And last, I'd say that I care about both equality and liberty. I just think that when people are treated equally, those people have more liberty, not less. And this is just my perspective, but I don't think that those three distinctions are very helpful for describing the core difference. Sure, some of those distinctions might be better than others in certain cases, but what is the real difference of values that the left and the right are pursuing? I prefer to think of the difference, left versus right, as equality versus hierarchy. It's true that left-wing politics is very concerned with equality. But left-wing politics is also very concerned with breaking down unjust hierarchies that have been imposed on us, making us unequal. Right-wing politics tends to view certain hierarchies as natural, normal, inevitable, and even desirable. For example, you don't often hear right-wing commentators talking about wealth inequality. That's because from their perspective, wealth inequality is a natural consequence of the free market, competition, and hard work. Because I have a left-wing perspective, I don't think it's natural that this hierarchy has been imposed on us. I do not think it's natural that 3 or 4 people have more wealth than the bottom 50% of this country. I think that hierarchy should be questioned. Think about the hierarchy between police departments and the communities that they police. Do we think it's natural that the police exert the level of force and the level of violence that they do against specific groups? Do we think it's natural that the police be militarized in this country? Or do we think that that hierarchy should be questioned? Do we think it should be challenged? Do we think that it should be reevaluated? If you think it should be reevaluated, then you have a left-wing perspective. Think about this upcoming election. Do you want somebody who thinks that the hierarchy between the police and the community is natural and should be maintained with force? Or do you want somebody who may listen to the protesters' requests? Somebody who may be responsive to the reasons why people are protesting? Or at least somebody who might feel the pressure of the protests and take that into consideration when they respond? Or do you want somebody who will respond to the protests with force to maintain hierarchy regardless of whether it's popular? Now, I'm not saying that this idea of equality versus hierarchy explains the difference between the two political parties in the US. In fact, I don't know if any of these distinctions perfectly explain our political parties. But if you like my way of looking at it, then I encourage you to apply this type of thinking to all sorts of political questions, whether you're thinking about everyday social norms, or elections, or protests. There's going to be a lot of protests going forward. Climate protests, protests about police brutality, protests about healthcare. Ask yourself if you stand for maintaining hierarchies or challenging them, questioning them. And if you do, that means that in terms of direction, you're looking at the left. Thanks for watching this video. I'm going to be making more videos. I got such a great response on my last two videos, which were both about education. If you haven't seen them yet, check them out. If you're somebody who shared that video or liked it, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I think I'm going to stay on this theme of education because I'm really interested in the politics of education, especially when it comes to learning about things that are controversial or counterintuitive. I'm working on a video about George Orwell's 1984 and education, so look for that. Thanks again for watching this video. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.